When you think of a high-performance BMW, the company's in-house M division has been transforming normal Beamers into high-performance track weapon cars for decades. However, BMW M has not had their own standalone vehicle in America for over 40 years. However, for 2024, that all changes with the introduction of the BMW XM, a very confusingly named flagship high-performance SUV that slots in between the X5 and the X7. And for 2024, BMW is turning the wick up by introducing this model here. This is the XM label, and it essentially increases the output of the twin-turbo V8 with the electric motor to produce 738 horsepower, making this model here the most powerful production BMW ever. So today we're actually out here in Spartanburg, South Carolina for the BMW Test Fest event. And the big question I want to answer, if you guys are looking for the ultimate high-performance SUV, has BMW M Division created that with this all-new XM label? Stay tuned to find out. Now, as BMW M Division's standalone model, that basically means there is no BMW equivalent minus the M badge if you look at BMW's lineup. And that's what makes the XM super unique, because this is an M-only developed car. We haven't seen one in America since 1981. Now, before we start talking about the very, very polarizing styling, let me go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing, because as you guys know, the M stands for motor. And this is where the XM label has a very unique powertrain. All XMs are essentially powered by a plug-in hybrid powertrain, which means you have a combination of a 4.4-liter twin turbocharged direct injection V8 engine. The engine on its own in the label makes 553 horsepower, around, or I'm sorry, 577 horsepower, around 553 pound-feet of torque. There is a more powerful electric motor that's sandwiched in between the gas engine and the 8-speed automatic. The electric motor on its own delivers around 194 horsepower. So in total, when you combine the gas engine and the electric motor, we have 738 horsepower, 738 pound-feet of torque as well. That's an increase of about 90, almost 100 horsepower versus the regular XM, the non-label version, which has around 644 horsepower. Like I said earlier, there's an 8-speed automatic transmission that is putting the power down. The company's M xDrive all-wheel drive system is standard, which means you have a limited slip differential. It's a performance-oriented all-wheel drive system that does give you the ability to put this vehicle into a two-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive mode, which is, of course, what a typical M driver is probably going to want to do. Now, the cool thing about this plug-in hybrid powertrain is it has a 19.2 kilowatt-hour usable kilowatt-hour battery pack that feeds the electric motor to deliver up to 31 miles of all-electric range. So you can actually drive this vehicle as an EV for up to 31 miles in certain conditions. The fuel tank capacity of the gas engine is around 18 gallons. So BMW says you'll get around 14 mpg combined when you drive it on the gas only, around 48 mpg-E, which is the electric equivalent of miles per gallon. You'll be looking at around 250 miles of range on the gas engine, plus the 30 miles on the electric only part, so around 280 miles of range total, which isn't a lot. This is a high performance vehicle. BMW says the label version will do 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. So it's about a half a second faster versus the non-label XM. So making this, again, the quickest production SUV that BMW has ever produced. Sadly, however, this is an SUV, but it's not actually recommended to tow. BMW says it's not recommended for towing here. In Europe, I saw it could tow up to 6,000 pounds, so not sure why BMW didn't want to fix that. This is a heavy, heavy vehicle. As this car sits, it weighs in at just over 6,200 pounds. That's a full 1,000 pounds heavier versus an X5M competition, which again, doesn't have the plug-in hybrid aspect. This vehicle also has a top speed of, get this, 175 miles an hour. So that is insane considering this is a 3-ton plus SUV. But let's go ahead and close up the hood and talk about the polarizing exterior styling. Now, first of all, I want you to take in this color, because in this sunlight, it's absolutely stunning. It's an individual color. It's called Anglesey Green Metallic. It's typically a $5,000 upcharge, but the individual colors are actually free of charge on all XMs, because remember, this vehicle starts at just under $160,000. This label version is at least $185,000. It has the typical BMW styling elements here, the company's twin kidney grills. These are also illuminated. You can see there's an LED light bar that surrounds the grills to make it even more noticeable at night. It's also black painted. You can see the headlights. This is kind of similar to what we see on the new 7 Series with the divorced elements here for the LED turn signals, daytime running lights. You have LED low and high beams. Down here you can see a lot of black mixed in with functional air intake openings. You can see there's the camera for the front camera system, the radar for the adaptive cruise control. There are functional air vents here because this V8 is going to require a lot of cooling still. But from this angle here, it almost looks like it's got this big pig snout, although it's not quite as intrusive as what you see on something like the M3 and M4 or the 4 Series. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the design. I see the new 7 Series here mixed with some different styling elements. It's definitely unique. The XM badge here is also red outlined to show that this is the label version. BMW was calling this the label red when they first talked about it, but now it's only called the label. I suspect that has to do with copyright issues, perhaps, but that's something that's I'm basically speculating. Now, this is an interesting vehicle, and it also fits very peculiarly into the BMW family hierarchy, because at 201 inches long in the overall length, this is around 8 inches longer than an X5M competition, but it's also around a foot shorter than, or I'm sorry, 6 inches shorter than an X7. So again, it slots in between those two vehicles. It has a 122-inch long wheelbase. That's around 5 inches longer versus the X5M competition. It certainly has some presence to it. This is a big, long SUV, and BMW says they're targeting cars like the Lamborghini Urus and the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon as the competitive set. So clearly they wanted something a little bit different, and you're going to be getting that with this kind of boxy shape. But looking at the wheels, this also has the biggest production wheels that BMW has ever done. It's a 23-inch wheel. That's right, a 23-inch wheel. And you can see this model here almost has kind of like a coppery tone to it. You can also get it with a silvery finish. You have these massive 6-piston brakes behind it. I think those rotors are like over 16 inches. I'm guessing there. I couldn't find the actual specs. But you also have staggered Pirelli tires. So up here on the front wheel, these are a 275 width tire. In the rear, they're a fatter 315. So again, one of the biggest tires you're going to find on a BMW SUV. The interesting thing, however, about the XM is this car has a steel adaptive suspension. So you cannot get an air suspension on this car, which would really improve the ride quality. That's one thing that people have talked about, is this car has a very stiff, almost sports car-like ride quality to it. Now, over here, below the XM badge, there's your charge port door. It's got a J1772 plug. BMW says the onboard charger is around 7 kilowatts. It's going to take around 3.5 hours to charge this vehicle on a level 2. Remember, it has a pretty large 17 or 19.2 kilowatt battery pack. BMW says, again, 31 miles of electric-only range, which is very usable. I think the plug-in hybrid version of the X5 does around 39 miles. So again, this is pretty good considering the performance of this car. Now you can see M-specific mirrors where these are power folding. They're black painted. You have integrated turn signals along with the camera in them. A lot of black trim here along the window trim. And then this right here, this gloss black, you can actually get this painted red along with the red trim there, which I think just looks awful. It is part of a package that you can option in that makes the vehicle look like a special edition, for example, but I prefer this kind of green with the black trim. Above me here, you can see no roof rails, and there's also no sunroof. It almost looks like a sunroof on the inside, but you can see here just a conventional steel roof, which I suspect has to do with the torsional rigidity of the vehicle. This platform is a very heavily modified version, I believe, of the same platform that underpins the X5. Now, looking at the rear of the car, very controversial design. It almost looks like it has like a big forehead here. I'm not sure I'm a fan of this, but you can see there's a interesting BMW sticker here on the top corners of the rear glass back here. You also have these kind of skinny, squinty taillights, which have a sequential design for the LED turn signal. It's all LED. You can see you have the same accented red outlined BMW XM badge, which again is a very peculiar name. And then down here on the rear diffuser, you can see it's very aggressive looking. You have the stacked quad exhaust tips, which look fantastic. I actually think this car looks really good when you look at it straight from the back, but it is an M product, so let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how the engine sounds real quick. Now, BMW typically puts soft limiters on their engines when you're just revving it, so I'm really happy to see that they took that off on this flagship Halo product, the XM label. But let's go ahead and open up the trunk capacity, because this is a big SUV, a really big SUV, and you'd expect it to have really big SUV cargo figures. And this is where I'm a little perplexed by the space, because if you look at it, it seems like it has a good amount of space, but BMW quotes this at 18.2 cubic feet of storage space. There's no third row on this vehicle. 18.2, to put that into perspective, is about half the capacity of an X5M competition. It is a little bit less storage space than something like a Volkswagen GTI, which is really surprising to see. If you fold down the second row seats, it'll expand it out to around 64 cubic feet. That's a much more reasonable amount of space. But remember, an X5M competition has roughly 10 more cubic feet of total storage space. So you are sacrificing a little bit of practicality by going with this vehicle. You can see it is a well finished area. There's also a bag here that has, I believe, the mobile charger for the vehicle. It also has a little cable over here. It looks like I can't actually lift this up to reveal any underfloor storage, at least. Actually, yes, I can. So there underneath here, you can see no spare tire. Instead, the 12-volt battery lives back here, I suspect, to improve the weight distribution and whatnot. But overall, as you can see, the liftover height's a little bit high. So if you were expecting this to have more cargo capacity than the X5, you're going to be a little bit disappointed when you see back here. So if the exterior of the XM was really polarizing, this is where the interior will feel a little bit more traditional, but with some unique elements for this vehicle that make it also very unique compared to something like an X5. Now, getting inside the vehicle, this car has roughly 8.7 inches of ground clearance. So it's an SUV, you get that nice easy step-in height. As I get in and shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. It also has a soft close feature if you guys don't want to have to slam the door. So again, that's what you expect in a vehicle that has a 6-figure price tag. Now, looking at the key fob, you can see this is BMW's newest key fob. It's got the typical M colors on it. It has usual buttons for lock. It also has remote start on the fob, unlock, power liftgate, and panic feature. You can also use your phone as a key, but I do like this key fob. It's a little bit large, but it also feels really high quality. Now, the start stop button is located right here by this M style shift knob. I'll put your foot on the brake, push that button, and you can hear it has those Hans Zimmer sounds of their electric vehicles, because remember, this is a plug-in hybrid vehicle, so there's no traditional engine starter noise. Instead, it just kind of whirs to life. It says ready in the instrument panel. Now, obviously, you can force the engine to come on if you guys would prefer the engine to come on. I put it into M2 mode, and you can hear it's got that typical V8 snarl with the pops and the crackles from the exhaust. So love the fact that BMW gives you that option if you guys want to hear that traditional V8. Now, in terms of the rest of the interior, you can see this dashboard design has the latest iDrive 8 with a very unique design with some contrasting stitching, some red accents, some pure or genuine carbon fiber with the actual M colors in it. The door panel, as you can see, has actual stitching on it where you have the contrasting stitching with real leather. It's nice and padded where your elbows would rest. On the lower portion also, it's covered in stitched leather. So again, all really fantastic materials. And you can also see the ambient lighting in this car. There's ambient lighting throughout the interior and the speakers, but the most intricate ambient lighting is above me here. There's like a geometric pattern in this, like on this ceiling where it has this suede Alcantara, but you can see there's LED light strips along each side of this little panel. This doesn't actually open up. There's no sunroof, but it's a really interesting design element that looks cool. You can also change the color. I have it in this emerald green. You can also go to a red color if you'd like, but overall, it certainly gives you a unique ambiance in this interior. Now, looking at the steering wheel, you can see this is the M specific steering wheel with the typical M stitching here with the colors. It's got carbon fiber on the wheel. Also got carbon fiber steering wheel mounted paddle shifters with an actual boost function here if you want to get maximum acceleration. There's the prerequisite M1 and M2 drive mode selectors here. The steering wheel itself is power, tilt, and telescoping with a good amount of adjustability and range. The horn sounds good. It doesn't sound, not really distinctive, but it also doesn't sound puny. It's very nondescript. There's a heads-up display as well. And then over here on this upper portion of the dash, it looks like there's like a massive speaker here with some kind of plastic trim pieces. I don't particularly like this, but I like the way that there's leather here with the carbon fiber, the XM badge. You have these new BMW dash vents with this little joystick where you can control the airflow. There's some aluminum trim, more ambient lighting. And then down here you can see more of that center console trim has that beautiful carbon fiber with the M colors. And then in the area here, you can see there's a wireless phone charging pad. There's heated and cooled cup holders in this vehicle. That's something that they took out of the BMW X5, which is nice. You can see I can close this up and cover that up if I need to. And then this shifter here controls the 8-speed automatic transmission. It's the M-style shifter where it almost looks like it's a dual clutch, but it's an 8-speed torque converter automatic. You can adjust the shift intensity by using these little buttons here. Park is accessed by pushing that P button here. If I go to neutral, I kick it over here and hold it there. Kick it over here and then push it forward to go into reverse. There's your full 360 camera system with a surround view system. It's got beautiful graphics. It's got their backup assistance where it'll remember how you pulled into a spot and then back you out if you guys want to use that backup assistance. The camera quality and resolution is fantastic. And then if you want to go to drive, you kick it over to the side here to cycle between D and of course S mode, where there's a manual mode as well. So again, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you can see over here, you have your electronic parking brake. If you want, you can also use this little dial to control the iDrive 8 system. So you can see this is a 14.5-inch display with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You have a 12.3-inch display here. I've showed you guys this before, and the wipers also work. I've showed you guys this before in other BMW products, so watch one of my other BMW reviews to see how the system works. Down over here, you can see your drive mode selector is also repeated. There's an M hybrid mode where it allows you to go to a hybrid mode where it'll blend the gas engine and the electric portion to get the best efficiency and range. There's also a full electric mode. When you have enough charge, this car is showing about 14 miles of range left. It's slightly below 50%, so it's not fully charged. And then E-Control allows you to basically hold the charge that's in the battery pack by using the gas engine and to use it for later. So I like how BMW gives you, again, that different setup. There's also an M mode here where you can go between a road and a sports setting here. If you go to sports setting, the gauge display actually changes the way it looks. It shows you what the different settings are. There's also individual settings if you want to alter the steering, the suspension, the brakes, and whatnot, the engine response. So typical BMW, there's so many different ways to customize this interior. It's what you expect for the most part. You can see over here, padded center console area, which allows you to open this up in 2 different ways. It's a pretty decent size. There's a USB-C here and a USB-A over here. Remember, this has wireless phone connectivity. You have some touch sensitive buttons here, an actual volume knob, and then the seats, you can see these are the M specific seats. This is standard on the XM. You can see they have a power thigh extender here. You also can adjust the bolstering here on the seat back and on the bottom cushion. The seats themselves look really great. I also like how that lights up with the XM. These are heated and ventilated, and they adjust, I believe, in like 20 different ways. And these also are massaging seats. So if I push a button here on the door panel, you can see that activates the massage where I can show different levels of intensity, different types of massage. It works well. It's typically $1,000 extra, but I think it's included on this trim, which you kind of expected at this price point. But overall, this car definitely has a unique feel to it. It's got wonderful premium materials. It's got all the latest tech features. It also has a ton of space, and the visibility out of this vehicle is pretty good. The one thing it's missing is no digital camera rearview mirror. BMW, again, doesn't do that, but I do like the suede Alcantara on the headliner, which is nice. But overall, as a flagship vehicle that has a 6-figure price tag, I think BMW has put some really nice materials and nice technology in here to justify that price. Now, moving to the back seat of this XM label, this is where you're going to find more space back here versus an X5, and that's because of the 5-inch stretch in the wheelbase. Now, as I get back here, you can see this is essentially, you know, my driving position, even though we're on the passenger side, but BMW says there's around 40 inches of legroom back here. 40 inches is about 3 more inches of legroom versus an X5M competition. So this is where that extra length is coming into play. There's a good amount of legroom space, as you can see. There is a hump here that intrudes on the middle passenger, but you do have rear seat air vents. You have your own set of climate controls, heated rear seats back here, quad zone climate control, but no cooled seats. It would be nice to see BMW put cooled seats in this car, so I'm surprised to see that there's no cooled seat function. But you do have other nice touches here, like you have the 2 storage cubbies with beautiful leather lining here. You have USB over here, along with a mount where you can actually put like a rear seat entertainment system where you can mount a screen. There's 2 more USBs over here. And then on the door panel, you can see beautiful ambient lighting still. The speakers also have ambient lighting. There's an ambient light strip over here. Wonderful leather strip or leather stitching here with real contrasting stitching on this upper portion. On this lower portion, it's padded over here. Leather continues along the lower portion of the door. This vehicle also comes with these beautiful pillows, which, as you can see, has really nice contrasting stitching with XM embroidered on the actual pillow. This is a really nice touch, especially if you guys plan to use this on longer trips. That's great. Over here in the center console area, there's an armrest that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders. And then above me here, you can see, I wish that this did open up to give more light in this cabin because it is pretty dark, but you can see in terms of the headroom space, for somebody my height at 5'7", I have plenty of space back here to kind of stretch out and get comfortable on those longer trips. So here we are in the most powerful production BMW M vehicle ever, the 700 and nearly 740 horsepower XM label. It's a weird named vehicle, but I have to say the performance that it gives you for this kind of money is impressive. BMW engines have always been underrated, and unfortunately, because this is a very short drive for the car, I'm not starting off on a full charge. I'll have to wait until I get one back home to retest for a full week to see what the actual range is going to be in electric only, and what the what it's going to be like to live with the electric portion of this vehicle. But I have to say, it definitely feels like a stiff, high-performance SUV getting behind the wheel. This car has a very, very firm ride quality. I'm noticing that right off the bat. I am starting off in M mode here, so it's going to give you that, stiff, firm ride quality. But this car has a twin turbo V8, and it's constantly making noises, and I love the sounds this V8 engine is making. It sounds really good. It has a responsive 8-speed automatic transmission, and it just feels like a high performance. It basically feels like I'm driving an M3 that's lifted, basically. That's kind of the sense, the vibe that I'm getting with this car. It feels very, very quick, and I think most people who are, you know, coming from an X5M, you're gonna get into this, you're gonna notice a very different feel because of the electric motor part as well. It gives this car kind of like an extra boost of acceleration that really gives you, ooh. That's nice. That is fast. That definitely feels quick. I mean, this car weighs 6,200 pounds, 6,200 pounds, one of the heaviest vehicles that BMW has probably ever made. It's kind of ridiculous how heavy this car is, but surprisingly, it does a pretty good job of just putting that power down. But let's go ahead and test out what the 0 to 60 is going to be for this car. I'm gonna actually try to find a better spot to do a 0 to 60 in this vehicle, because BMW claims 3.6 seconds. I suspect that number is going to be conservative. In this mode here, it's definitely a little high strung. I'm feeling every shift. I'm feeling how stiff it is. If I come out of the M2 mode here, just put it into its M1 mode, this is where the dampers get a little bit softer, a little bit more compliant, and it's definitely a little bit better, but this car could definitely benefit from an adaptive air suspension. If BMW put an air suspension on this car, it would definitely give it a smoother ride quality. Plus, also, you remember the fact that you've got 23-inch wheels. 23-inch wheels is absolutely insane on this car. And the rear tires are also 315 wide. It's a fat tire. You also feel the width of this car. It definitely has the presence that you're associating with something that is, you know, this kind of money. I mean, because remember, this car competes with vehicles like the Lamborghini Urus. I definitely see it as a Lamborghini Urus competitor, because I had spent some time in an Audi RS Q8, which technically isn't an Urus, but it's as close as you're gonna get with an Audi badge on it, essentially. BMW also says that they want to compare this to like a G-Wagon. I don't really think a G-Wagon is a competitor for this car, but oh my God. So that mode, actually, I had it in manual mode, and in manual mode, it actually will hold the revs and it won't upshift for you. So that's something to keep in mind. You constantly have to be keeping an eye on this, because when you're switching between M1 and M2, it will actually cycle between manual mode and automatic mode in the 8-speed automatic. This almost feels like I'm driving a car with a dual clutch transmission, and it's really interesting to spend a little time driving this, because it feels like I'm driving a car with a dual clutch with how firm it is and how harsh it is. But let's go ahead and finally test out what this car can do 0 to 60 wise. I've been waiting to find a decent stretch here. That's the downside with doing these programs. I also am slightly uphill, but let's just see what we can get here when I launch the car. So we'll go into M2 mode here, which will switch it back into its automatic mode here. And then if you pull and hold the left paddle, that's going to give you the boost mode. Then the boost only lasts 10 seconds, so you can't actually use the boost mode all the time. It only lasts for that short amount of burst. But let's see what we can get when we try it in boost mode and then have everything in its Sport Plus setting. Oof. 3.7 seconds there, and that's with it going uphill. That's with it going uphill. So I suspect if we can find a level surface here, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to on this short drive. This will probably do it in the low 3-second range. I mean, it's really easy to get the launch control to engage as well. Typically, BMWs are kind of a pain in the butt to get the launch control to work, so I was surprisingly happy with how easy it was to get the launch control in this car to engage. That was a nice little change compared to other BMWs. But here, we're going to try it here on this light because it did change, and we'll see if we can get a slightly quicker 0 to 60 time. Oof. 3.6 seconds there, and that's with it basically level. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to wait till I can retest one back home, but that is plenty of performance. I think most people who are gonna get into this car and just be blown away, because the electric portion of this vehicle definitely gives you that added boost. I mean, you don't have to wait for a turbo to spool up. It just feels fast all the time. And I love the fact that the transition between hybrid and whatnot is relatively seamless. But let me actually switch the drive mode out of M2. Let's just put it into its normal mode here, which you access by hitting the M mode here and just go to road. I'm gonna actually switch the hybrid portion here to just electric. Let's see if I can actually put it into electric only. So this in this mode here, I've got about 14 miles of range. It's got under 50% charge. I just want to briefly talk about what it's like to drive in EV mode. It's kind of strange actually because the engine obviously shut off. It gives you a little bit of regen braking, but boy is a lot slower in this mode because the electric motor only delivers around 194 horsepower on its own. It's not a lot of power. So if I put my foot down here, it's producing that iconic Hans Zimmerman sounds, and it also has shifts because remember, it's got an 8-speed automatic that it has to work around, but put my foot down here. You know, it actually does have enough power to drive around town, I have to say. It feels quick enough, but it's definitely, when you drive it around with the V8 on, you get spoiled rotten with how fast it is. But in this mode here, it actually does have enough power, so you could drive this car on pure EV alone. Now, there is a little kick down point on the gas pedal. If you go past that click down point, it's gonna wake up the gas engine. So you can feel it, you actually see it here. It goes back into hybrid control. So kind of keep that in mind. You cannot go past that click point if you wanted to drive in pure EV power alone. But again, this mode here is a nice surprise. I'll be very curious to see what this vehicle is like to drive with the in an M5, because we know that this powertrain is going to eventually make its way into the next generation M5, which we've seen the new 5 Series, but this is really, really nice. It's great to have this electric only portion, and I'm looking forward to getting this car for a full week where I can test out the actual EV range, because BMW claims 31 miles, which should be good for most people's commutes. So again, if you guys want that dual personality, you want to drive it like a complete jerk and do 0 to 60 in the low 3-second range and hear that lovely V8, put it in hybrid mode, but when you drive it around town, just to and from work, you can put in this electric only mode, and this car actually functions pretty well as a pure EV. So for decades, if you were looking for the ultimate high-performance BMW M SUV, you were looking at a BMW X5M competition. And I have to say, that was basically a near-perfect high-performance luxury SUV. So with the introduction of this model here, the XM, it is a very peculiar addition to the BMW lineup. I understand why BMW did it, though. They are looking to make a styling and performance statement with the XM, because this is a standalone M model. We haven't seen one in America for over 40 years. And after spending a little bit of time driving this vehicle, this is a very quick drive. I have to say, I am a little bit confused by this vehicle, but I also like how effective the performance is and the technology, because the plug-in hybrid aspect gives this vehicle up to 31 miles of electric-only range. You're going to find a variation of this powertrain in something like the upcoming redesigned BMW M5. With over 730 horsepower on tap, BMW says 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, and it feels every bit like that out on the road. The electric-only portion, I'll have to wait until I get one back home to test out to see what the actual real-world range is going to be. Fuel economy in terms of just driving it with the gas engine is not great at 14 mpg. The range of this vehicle is not great because of the small 18-gallon fuel tank. But in terms of the design, you either love it or hate it. I personally hated this look when I first saw it in pictures, but after spending a little bit of time with it in person in this beautiful Anglesey green, I have to say this green color is perfection. I would absolutely go for this green entirely, and I love how BMW doesn't charge you extra for their individual colors by going with the XM. Really, when you want to actually purchase this vehicle, the price point of the car is going to be leaving you probably scratching your head, because a base XM, which there isn't really a base version, a non-label, starts at just under $160,000. $160,000. That's like $40,000 more than an X5M competition, which is a pretty big chunk of change. Now, I suspect those of you who want the plug-in hybrid aspect will probably be able to justify that. I mean, if you're going to be able to spend $120,000, $160,000 shouldn't be too much more of a stretch. Now, the label version is another 25 grand on top of the XM pricing. So this model here starts at $185,000, which if you're comparing it to something like a Lamborghini Urus, the Urus is easily $250,000 to $350,000. So the BMW is kind of a bargain. With some of the options that my test car here has, this grand total price comes to just under $192,000. So again, just under $200,000 sounds like a stupid amount of money, which it is, but if you're comparing it to like a G-Wagon or a Lamborghini Urus, the XM is kind of a bargain, and it also has a design that certainly stands out, but it definitely has a confusing name and confusing aspects. And really, to be honest, I need to spend a little bit more time with this vehicle before I make my final kind of notes and recommendations on whether you should go for an X5M competition or go for the full-on XM. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full full overview on the brand new 2024 BMW XM Label. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.